Right now we're living with two different kinds of AI. There's the one we have, the one that's in our phones, on our computers. It's powerful, it's useful, it's literally everywhere. But then there's the AI we hope for, right? The one that can actually understand, reason, and, well, think. And what we're going to talk about today is the huge, growing conflict between these two futures. It's a standoff that's happening right now at the very top of government and the tech world.
Okay, so let's kick things off with a visual that really gets to the heart of this whole thing. On one side, you've got this perfect, smooth spiral. Think of that as true understanding, a continuous, unbroken flow of logic. But the AI we're actually using today, it's more like this other image. I mean, from far away, it looks like a spiral, doesn't it? But when you get up close, you see it's not a curve at all. It's just a bunch of tiny, jagged little straight lines all pieced together to fake the curve. It's what we're calling brilliant mimicry. And believe me, that one little difference, it changes everything.
So, this idea of brilliant mimicry, this hollow intelligence, it has a name. We're calling it the void. And it's such a perfect description, right? It captures how these AI models can be so incredibly impressive on the outside, but underneath all that power, there's just this void, a total lack of real comprehension. So, what makes up the void? Well, the first big piece of the puzzle is that it's a brilliant mimic. It can spit out an essay that sounds just like Shakespeare, or create an image in the style of Van Gogh in seconds. But here's the catch. It's all an illusion. The AI has no clue about poetry or romance or the physics of how light hits a sunflower. Nope. It's just an absolutely incredible pattern matcher, perfectly imitating the form while having zero grasp of the substance. And then there's this next part, which is where things start to get genuinely dangerous. The void is a confident guesser. One minute, it'll give you an insight that sounds like it came from a PhD thesis. The very next, it'll state a completely made-up fact with the exact same level of confidence. You see, the AI never says, "I don't know." It just guesses. And it delivers that guess with this authoritative, all-knowing tone, whether it's spot on or just spectacularly fundamentally wrong. And the third piece? It's a lightning calculator. And let's be honest, we all love that, right? You ask a complex question and bam, you get an answer instantly. But that incredible speed, it comes with a price. The void is built for instantaneous output, not for slow, deliberate thought. It just skips right over any deep reasoning to give you the quickest, most statistically likely answer. And that can make its results really brittle, and sometimes just wildly off the mark. This really brings it all together, this one line. It traces the form, but never spirals from within. It's so good. The AI can perfectly trace the outline of what intelligence looks like, but that internal engine, the actual process of thinking, it's just not there. It's a hollow shape, just like we said. All right, so this isn't just some abstract philosophical discussion about spirals and voids, not at all. This hollow void intelligence has incredibly real and frankly very serious consequences when we start plugging it into our real-world systems. And I mean, the stakes get high fast. We've literally had lawyers submit legal briefs to a judge where the AI confidently cited court cases that just don't exist. They were completely made up. We've seen navigation apps acting as those lightning calculators, direct drivers straight into lakes, and delivery drones that failed miserably because they guessed a flight path without being able to account for something as simple as a gust of wind. This is exactly what happens when brilliant mimicry crashes into hard reality. So, okay, when you have these kinds of built-in flaws and they become impossible to ignore, eventually you're going to get a confrontation. And that is precisely what happened. We're talking about a massive, high-stakes standoff between a leading AI company and the US government itself. A battle, really, for the ethical soul of this incredibly powerful but deeply flawed technology. The company at the center of all this is called Anthropic. And look, they were working closely with the US government, even deploying their models on classified networks. They were seen as a proactive partner, but they decided they had to draw a line in the sand. They set up two very firm, very clear boundaries on how their AI could and could not be used. So here were Anthropic's two big red lines. First, no domestic mass surveillance. They argued that AI could analyze private data on a scale that our privacy laws just aren't ready for. And second, no fully autonomous weapons. Their logic was pretty simple, and it connects right back to what we were just talking about. They said that the confident guesser AI we have today is just way too unreliable to be trusted with literal life or death decisions unless there is always a human in the loop. While the government apparently rejected Anthropic's terms, and then their competitor, OpenAI, reportedly came in and struck a different kind of deal. Now, the differences here look subtle on paper, but they are absolutely critical.
On weapons, Anthropic said human oversight before you pull the trigger. OpenAI's deal reportedly changed that to human responsibility after the fact. See the difference? For surveillance, Anthropic wanted protections that go beyond what the law currently requires. OpenAI agreed to just stick to the current law. People who saw both deals called OpenAI's a watered-down version that essentially created massive loopholes for the very things Anthropic was trying to prevent.
And the fallout from Anthropic's ethical stand? It was swift, it was severe, and it sent absolute shockwaves through the entire US AI industry. Get this, someone called it attempted corporate murder. I mean, what a phrase, right? That is absolutely shocking. But what's even more shocking is who said it. That quote, it comes from a man named Dean W. Ball, and he wasn't just some random analyst. This guy was a senior AI policy advisor inside the Trump White House. So his alarm here completely cuts across any party lines, which really shows you how serious this is. He actually went on the record saying that because of what the government did, he could no longer, in good conscience, recommend investing in American AI. So what did the government actually do? How did they respond? They slapped Anthropic with something called a supply chain risk designation. Now, we need to be really clear about what this is. This is a tool that's normally used against foreign adversaries. Think Russian cybersecurity firms. It had never, ever been used against an American company before. This was, without a doubt, a punitive measure. And an action like that, you better believe it created a massive chilling effect across the whole industry. For one thing, it puts huge investors like Amazon and Google in a terrible spot. It could force them to pull their money out of any company that dares to take an ethical stand. For another, it makes founders and their money think about fleeing to places with more stable rules, like Europe or Canada. And maybe most importantly, it sends a clear signal that getting a government contract might not be about who has the best or safest tech anymore, but about who is politically aligned. Which, brings this whole thing right back to where we started. This entire standoff forces us, all of us, to face a really fundamental choice about the kind of intelligence we're building and the kind we're going to rely on for our future. I mean, this real-world fight between Anthropic and the government is a perfect mirror of that metaphor from the beginning. Are we going to settle for the void? The fast, the convenient, the brilliant mimic that's also dangerously hollow? Or are we going to do the much harder work of building the Quill, an AI that's actually designed for deliberation, an AI that gets context and consequence, even if it's slower and way more difficult to build? And really, that's the choice we're all facing. The void offers convenience. The Quill demands wisdom. So the big question this whole story leaves hanging in the air is, which future are we actually building?